Blake, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about who you are and your business?
Yeah, I started the business 8 years ago. I have a partner and two kids at the moment, and started the business whilst I was still at home. Yeah, just late one night, I was back from an overseas trip for about 3.5 months. Came back and realised, that was the best time for me to rather than return to full-time work, to step out and start to work for myself and build a business. So it was all just very spur of the moment, trying to come up with logos and business names and things. And initially the business name I wanted was Alexel. So the business is Alecell, spelled Elecell. I'd pronounce it Alexel, and then had a couple of people say, hang on, this isn't quite right. You need two C's. So I sort of looked at it and realised that if I had two C's there, I didn't like the look of it. So then I just had to deal with the fact that I misspelt it and registered a business name incorrectly. And yeah, ever since, it's been about 8 years now. It was early 2017 when I started the business.
So why did you get into business for yourself?
Yeah, so business-wise, I had an enjoyment for business management and dealing and working with people. And besides that fact, I wanted the opportunity to try and control finances and the money and what I could potentially make as a business owner. Rather than an employee where you're restricted and limited to the working hours and times that you can spend.
I don't know if you can remember this far back, given it's 8 years ago, but can you remember any of the fears that you had when you were getting started?
To be completely honest, I probably didn't have a whole lot of fear. I was in a really good situation in terms of having limited overheads. I had no debt. I lived at home, no mortgage, kids. So I probably didn't have fear as such, as much of excitement and the eagerness to just get in there and try and get started as quickly as I could.
I remember correctly, you sort of finished up somewhere where you were working and that guy closed the business down as well, didn't he, and retired?
Yeah, so the business that I worked for and spent my apprenticeship with, actually sold to another company, maybe a month prior to me finishing my time. The employees then transferred over to the business that purchased, and I worked for them for maybe a couple of years, and then went overseas for 3.5 months. So yeah.
And when you came back, that's when you decided to get out on your own.
Yep.
What would you say to people who are in a similar situation? Like they're starting their trade business, they're youngish in their 20s, and they don't have those responsibilities that you have as you get older. Is there any like specific pieces of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, probably don't feel as though you need to fulfill the 5 days of the working week. So you'll start off with limited work, and you'll spend time trying to gather your own work and client base, which might fulfill your day or your week for 1 or 2 days initially. Don't feel that you need to subcontract or work that Thursday and Friday if you don't have your own work, because it's the best time and opportunity to spend it trying to build your clientele and your base as a business and a company, rather than spending your time contracting because you're so used to the fact that you've worked for someone 5 days a week, every week. Don't feel as though that needs to be the case. When you start, try and take the fact that you can fulfill your expenses with 1 to 3 days worth of work.
Yeah.
And then take that Thursday and Friday or that Monday and Tuesday and spend that on sales and trying to build your client base as quick as you can to then fulfill the 5 days a week for yourself and not someone else.
That's actually really good advice, mate. That's actually really good advice. So don't be concerned about working 5 days a week because that's what you're used to for income.
Yeah.
Forgo some of that potential income for the future of your business.
When you don't need it for the mortgage and your
long as you
dependents
don't.
and kids. Yeah.
Yeah, good
If you've got
advice.
enough money to get by, then
I think there's a little caveat there for some guys that probably needs to be put in there. It doesn't mean that you can go fishing or play golf.
no, that's
You're not
right.
saying that. You're
No,
saying
no.
spend that
Yeah,
time
yeah.
building your business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And in saying that though, like that was a really enjoyable time. Like that first 1 to 2 years of business, you do have that time and work-life balance, and you can finish a little bit earlier. But yeah, trying to spend as much time as you can working on the business. Yeah. Rather
Yeah.
than in someone else's as a subcontractor.
So if there's somebody in that situation listening to this
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually going to do what you said, what would you suggest they do? So not just go working on your business, like specifically what should they do?
Yeah, so I think like I've tried a lot of different things, and for an example, like High Pages, your lead generation platforms where you pay to quote, yeah, it generates some work, but to build your business, you want to build the customers that you can retain for a long period of time, and the people that look for services online are because they don't have a relationship with a contractor or a business, and they'll find and use your services because they need it very rarely. And then when they need something in 2 to 3 years, they don't remember your name or your business, and they jump back onto a lead generation platform or Google and search the next contractor and have them do the next job. So get around to the local businesses, talk to people like at the footy clubs and netball clubs and where you spend your time, and talk to so many people, because like the more people that know you're out working for yourself just through general conversation can mention your name when they speak with whoever it may be. They hear someone needs something, and recently you've spoken about starting your own business, and they'll put your name forward.
So when you're in this situation, you've just started your business, you've only got 2 to 3 days worth of work, and instead of subcontracting, as you're recommending, spend that time building your business. You're at the football or netball clubs and you're talking to people. What do you think they should say?
Ask the question. Understand what their business is and who they are and what they do, obviously, and think how you can help them, or if there's regular needs in terms of maintenance. They rent and operate out of a factory. Ask who does the exit and emergency testing, the testing and tagging, the machine breakdowns. So family members of mine had like an IT company, and I'd sort of speak with them, like it, unrelated if it was a friend of yours or something that had a business, IT related, for example. They'll install like desks and computers and new business offices for people. Who does the data cabling and who puts in the PowerPoints for these new workstations. And if it's up to the customer to arrange, well, maybe pre-package, have a chat to them and try and sell the computer, the setup, the network, the data, and the power all together. I sort of reached out to people that we'd worked for, which I hadn't worked for a while, obviously, but old supervisors for builders and people that you had a relationship with too. Like jump on the phone, make a lot of phone calls with people. Yeah.
What would you say when you jumped on the phone?
It's a general conversation initially. It's a bit of a catch up, and then you obviously ask where they're working, what site they're on, explain to them that you've recently started your business, and ask whether or not you can assist with anything. Do they need anything what are the future projects or jobs that they have potentially coming up, and can they give you the opportunity to price it?
What are the three biggest issues you either faced when starting or you face now? You can answer either or both of those if you want, whatever comes to mind.
The three biggest issues.
Issues or challenges, depends what you want to call them.
Well, the main one that comes to mind for me at the moment, which has been a challenge, it's an ongoing challenge, is trying to maintain a steady volume of work. So quite often you're too busy or you're not busy enough. But trying to maintain consistency is really difficult. And business growth, it takes a really long time. So just accepting that, you'll plant these seeds for a long period of time, but you won't necessarily see the results straight away. And keeping a good mindset with that, like knowing that, yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, but don't get your back up and get the shits on. That's a really difficult thing, like trying to keep yourself positive. You don't see the changes yourself as much as the people outside of the business see them.
Yep.
That's a difficult thing. Yeah.
So you hit on something really cool there that I like, and it's people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but underestimate what they can achieve in 10. And you've probably heard me say that a million times.
Yeah.
When you're in that phase of you're frustrated because things aren't actually growing the way you want them to, you mentioned you've got to try and stay positive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you do to stay positive in those times?
Talk to someone like yourself. Yeah. That's a good question. Like, yeah, you always have opportunities and quotes and things that you're doing, and think as if one of those or consider or feel as though they're going to come in the future, and how that'll be beneficial, and look forward to it until the time comes that that's not there, but there'll be that other opportunity that you've quoted or worked on after that one. Continually look forward to these opportunities and what you've put the work into, and look forward to them. Yeah, just know that if today you've got the shits on a little bit, when this job comes through, or the work that you've put in, it's going to pay off shortly. So yeah, be optimistic.
One of the things that I liked that you said is assume the quotes that you've got out are going to actually come in. And I guess on the back end of that, being positive and optimistic but not doing any work is a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So you've got to actually be doing the work with a good attitude, not just sitting there meditating and focusing and feeling what can come in the future. You've actually got to put the work behind it.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like, you be optimistic and you're positive, but you've got to be realistic.
Yeah.
Like, you hope and want these jobs to come through, but if they don't, you've got to have that backup plan, that A, B, C, D. So you continually work. Yeah, it's a continuous process.
Why did you decide to get a business coach?
One of the reasons was early on, some of my role models, I suppose, that were within business, they had a business coach. So just naturally, I felt as though that was a little piece to the puzzle to building a large or successful business. And within business, or as an employee, for example, you've always got your boss or your supervisor or someone that you work with that if you've got a question, you go straight to them and it's resolved straight away. As a business owner, you don't have that person to talk to or call. you need a business coach there to help give you the advice, to have that outside perspective, and to bounce ideas and things off to make sure that the decisions that you've got, that you make the right one.
It's like I always found when I was running my business, it's quite lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when you're an employee, you've got someone you can go talk to for help. But
Yeah.
when you own the place and you run it, it's quite often lonely.
Yeah.
And I found that I genuinely felt that the only person that was on my side was Steve, my coach.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. There's probably not many people that understand the ins and outs of your business. So even to talk to someone that doesn't know the ins and outs of your business, it's hard to have a conversation or for them to be able to give you really good advice as well. It's really great to have a business coach that understands your complete business, so that you've got two heads making the decisions rather than one.
What do you think people should look for in a business coach if they're considering one?
Really good looking like yourself, John.
I didn't know you were funny, mate.
I can be occasionally, but I think a really, really key point is to have someone with industry experience and knowledge. A lot of people can read and understand the data, the figures, the balance sheet, the P&L, but to have someone understand the industry and the environment that you're operating in is a massive one, for me anyway.
If you were building your business today,
Mm-hmm.
like starting from scratch, would you build it the same way, or would you do something or many things differently?
What I'd probably tell myself or someone that was to start their business, I think personal development is a really big thing. Like, try and work on yourself at the same time as your business, rather than neglect that and have your sole focus on the business initially. If you can focus on both of those things at once when you start to build the business, I think the development and the growth would just be a lot quicker.
Why do you think
process.
personal development's important?
I feel as though, as the business owner or the director, you're a really big anchor if you're not ready to move forward and grow with the business. You're a really big influence on the business's development. So work on yourself, as well as the business, for sure. Yeah. Read and listen to people that have been there or done it before. So that's books, that's your podcasts. Try and teach and learn from other business owners that have been there and done that before you, basically. Yeah.
I think it's really good. I quite often say that a business is the direct reflection of the owner, the business's personality, and the owner is the cap on the business. So your level of income generally rises to meet your level of personal development.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, if you want to make more money, if you knew how to do it, you'd already be doing it.
Yeah.
So you've got to go out there and you've got to educate yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Like, if you were the first to have done it, then you wouldn't be worrying about business growth because you'd be rich and you'd have a huge successful business already. So learn from those that have done it before you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So in terms of having a business coach, and how they can assist you with your business, is having that outside perspective, someone that doesn't have an emotional connection to what you're doing, which helps you make a clear decision that's not emotionally influenced, and someone that can see when you're ready to take the next step. And if you don't know what that next step is, your business coach can show you the way to take that next step. He can see when you're ready and then introduce you to what that is. Because sometimes you don't know what to do. Like, so yeah, having that person there to help you continually grow and take that next step so that you don't plateau, is very valuable.
If you, Blake, could go back to Blake 8 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when Blake was first starting,
Yep.
what advice would you give the younger Blake?
The advice, in relation to work on site, I would say to have everything in writing, have your quotes, have your agreements, have everything on a digital or hard copy, because the handshake agreement and the verbal agreements and stuff don't stand up, especially when you're first starting. Like, the other businesses that have been established for a lot longer, they have a lot more experience. They'll take advantage of you just starting, and the verbal, proceed and go ahead with that variation, or that's fine. Like, we'll sort it out later. You need to quote that. You need to have that variation. You need to be 100% locked in of that price with them before undertaking any work. Yeah,
that's really good advice. Really good advice. So many people, especially at the beginning, that haven't been screwed over by people, won't do that. And like, one little piece of advice for people, if they haven't got systems and processes in place to actually send through a quote and raise a purchase order, is just send an email.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a job and the guy says, "Hey, I know you're putting in 4 lights, but I want you to come back and put 2 PowerPoints over there. I'll pay you for it." Just send them an email.
Yeah.
Say, "Hey, as per our discussion, I'll install the 2 PowerPoints over there, and you'll pay me for it."
Yeah.
Because it's always in writing then.
Yeah, that's right. You definitely need it, and you need to, obviously outline the cost too.
Yep.
Don't just have a verbal agreement or an email approving of such and such additional works. You've got to have a dollar figure next to it, because if that hasn't been agreed upon beforehand, you can bet your bottom dollar that they'll try and screw it down.
Some people will, yeah.
Yeah.
What is the best system you've implemented in your business, and why?
To be honest, I would probably say SimPro, and that was, that advice and that program was introduced to us from you. So we were using a job management system, and I thought that was it. That's all you had to do. Like, we had a system, a job management system that we were familiar with. It was doing what we needed it to do. Therefore, you look and focus on whatever's next. You consider that box checked. And that's advice that you've given to us and introduced us to SimPro, which had so many other different features that if you utilize all of that correctly and implement that, then all of your systems and processes outside of the computer can all align and run a lot smoother. And if we hadn't have jumped onto SimPro, you'd still have that mess, but not realize that it can be fixed by just changing the systems on the computer, I suppose.
Do you have any favorite failures, or did you have a failure that taught you a lesson that you needed to learn? We've all had failures that teach us lessons we need to learn.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there one that stands out as like a favorite or a really good lesson that you learned?
Oh, just recently, I suppose. Just not spending enough time initially on going through the job and what can and can't potentially go wrong. Like, you need to put in a lot of time at the start to cover all bases, and if you don't, you can come unstuck pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this was a complex job where you were under pressure to get a price to them quickly.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? So what would you do differently then?
Slow everything down, and make sure that I was comfortable and I'd assessed the complete job
Yep.
prior to sending any quotes and things through.
Yep. What would you say if they come back to you and said, "Look, Blake, we just don't have time. You're gonna have to get us a quote. Like, we need the quote now."
Yeah, no, you'll have to be open and honest with them and just say, look, a job of this nature or a job of this scale takes time to accurately provide a price,
Yep.
and we can't do that within the unrealistic time frame that you've given us.
Mhm.
We need another couple of days.
Mhm. So are you better off in a situation like that if they say, "Well, if you don't give me a quote today, don't give me a quote at all." Are you better off giving them something, or are you better off saying, "That's okay, mate. We don't have time to do it."
Yeah, you're better off saying that that's okay, because you do it this time and it might work out okay.
Yep.
But if they give you that short notice of the next one and it doesn't go okay, then it's irrelevant doing the first one, because it counteracts each other. You'll come unstuck eventually.
What are you working on now that you find interesting?
So we do we do a lot of work within the insurance building industry. Um, one of the things I like is walking into a project that you don't have the plans for. You can design and sort of construct and try and work out with what's left of the building, if anything, and try and work out and picture what was there so that you can reinstate it. Um, the consultants and the scope of work can take photos and things, but no one can look through the electrical components, cabling of what's left there and put an accurate scope together. So you sort of design the project before undertaking it. And
Yep.
I enjoy that challenge of trying to nut out what was there,
Mm.
and then based upon what you can work out because of your industry knowledge, you can then go back and justify
Mhm.
your pricing
Yeah.
and explain the differences between the broad scope that they've given and why there's more work that's required.
Mm.
So you sort of go in as a bit of an inspector initially and
Yep.
work out what needs to be done.
I always found the projects where we had to design them to be really good projects and quite lucrative.
Hmm.
That generally the margin that's on them is higher. I'm thinking of a couple of instances where we did some major fit outs for clients that we worked with. Um, I made a really good margin on the project, but also they saved a lot of money by not having electrical engineers come in and do the design.
Yeah.
So the net benefit to the client was a plus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you're right. It's interesting to go in and
Yeah.
be able to start from scratch and figure out what you need to do and advise the client on what should happen.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that when you started in the business, you had virtually no responsibility, which was good.
Yeah.
And as you move along the path of life, you've picked up a wife and you've picked up children, you've picked up a mortgage. So how have those responsibilities changed your outlook on business or what you do in business?
My outlook in business, I suppose, hasn't changed as much as the the implementation of other staff members to free up my time, um, to be able to then spend that with your family after work.
Mm,
If I was to work all day and do the paperwork and accounts and things after hours, like, I think it's absolute madness. Like,
mm,
you're very limited to how much time you've got.
mhm.
Um, when you work and run your business, and that free time that can be created by as- other staff members to assist you
Yeah.
is just so valuable that, regardless of the expense, the business expense,
Uh-huh.
it completely outweighs what value your free time is.
I understand.
Um,
And so you've done that in two ways, haven't you? Because first of all, you've got a really good business admin person. What's her title? What do you call?
she's basically like the administration and accounts manager.
Yep.
Um,
But she's a bit more than that, isn't she? Like,
oh, for sure. She's
yeah.
like my PA basically.
Yeah.
She assists with any tasks that if I don't have time or the chance to, then she obviously covers that.
Yep.
But she talks and deals with a lot of clients.
Uh-huh.
So when I need to organize the operations and the scheduling and things I can have a chat to her about, she might have spoken to someone a couple of days ago or
Yeah.
that particular day that I can then fulfill the schedule with.
And then the other thing you did, generally when we're setting up a management structure for trade businesses, the business or admin manager comes in, and then the next manager to come in is an operations manager who runs the schedule and runs the guys. But you did something a little bit different.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah, I put an estimator on instead.
And why did you do that?
To be completely honest, like the estimations took a lot of time, and when you feel your time wasn't valued or appreciated with who you were pricing the job for, it creates a lot of frustration, and I was getting frustrated with it. Probably because I was taking it like a little bit personally and felt like my time was wasted. So rather than being frustrated or doing something that you didn't want to do, I obviously outsourced it and put on an estimator.
And this is one of the really good things about being a business owner. Like, there's a lot of negatives owning a business because business is hard.
Yeah.
Especially in this country at this stage and in this state of Victoria.
Mate, yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
But one of the really good benefits of being a business owner is the stuff that you don't like doing, you can get someone else to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
And quite often you can get someone else to do it better than what you did.
Yeah.
Because you've got a person in that particular role who's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Tends to be a natural in the estimating. And I remember when you and I discussed it, I was like, oh, Blake, I don't know whether this is the right thing to do. But in hindsight, it's been a really good thing for your business, because what have you been able to focus on, not because you're not bogged down in the estimations?
It gives you time to focus on the business, obviously. So that gives you a chance to really understand the financials, the margins, the markups, how the jobs have been completed and how they're being completed. And then you can focus on, building the business, but understanding the ins and outs and your markups and margins and everything a lot clearer. You give yourself that time to get across other aspects of the business.
As you're growing your business, what have you learnt about yourself?
Learnt about myself. Probably, how I was not tapping into the resources that I had available. Basically,
What do you mean by that?
I'd never consider personal development or reading the books or the podcasts and things. Wouldn't have done it, to be honest. Yeah. So I obviously learnt that. What did I learn? That I was pretty narrow-minded and had to open up my eyes a little bit and realize that you're probably not as good as you think you are.
I'm just thinking, like, one of the things that I remember learning, not so much learning about myself, but learning in business that came up when you said that, is put yourself into positions that make you do things. So what do I mean by that? Most of us lack the confidence to see something large through at the beginning. But if you just have enough courage to step into it, then you can't get off it. So I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but there's a saying that I used to like that helped me, is nobody would have gotten across an ocean if they could have got off the ship in a storm. So if you put yourself in the ocean, knowing that there's going to be some storms, and back yourself to get across it.
Mhm.
That's a big thing to learn in business,
Yeah.
because otherwise you never take any big risks or big steps because you're not confident that you know how to get to the end.
Mhm.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You just got to have the courage to get started and back yourself to figure the rest out.
Yeah, for sure. Like that, you go through your apprenticeship, and the business that you generally work within has established their little niche or area that they focus on.
Mm.
And then you step out and start to work for yourself and realize all of the different areas of the industry and the people that can approach you or you can approach them without actually having that experience, but saying you can do it anyway
Mhm.
and just figuring it out is such a huge part of business initially,
Mhm.
because your focus is like trying to grow that business. So you don't want to give away the opportunity because you don't completely know how to do the whole project or the whole process or task.
Mhm.
And that's when you find people like yourself with technical experience, a business coach, you sign up for companies that can assist, like master electricians. They have a technical support page. Your electrical inspector can assist. And when you go to trade events and the wholesaler Christmas parties and things, for example, um, don't consider the other contractors your competitors
Yeah.
as such. Like try to introduce and develop a friendship with them, because the advice that you can get from your competition, so to speak, is so valuable. Everyone does little things differently,
Mm.
and they may do different things that you do, obviously, and you can reach out to them directly and they can really assist and help you like
Mm.
complete those tasks and those hurdles that you come across.
It's a great example of being creative, not competitive.
Mm.
Um, because if you've got a competitive mindset, then you're always competing against other people for a finite amount of resources. But if you're creative, you can go and talk to people that are so-called competitors
Yeah.
and generate work for each other. And
Yep.
a really good example of that, you see car yards build beside each other.
Yep.
And that's being creative, not competitive, because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to bring more people in there.
Yep.
I love that you said that, mate. All right, so we're getting towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
What hobbies do you have outside of work, and
Mm-hmm.
how does that help you in work?
Yeah. So one of my main hobbies would be dirt bike riding. Um, and that helps within work because it's such a fast paced hobby where you have to concentrate on exactly what's in front of
Mm.
you every split second, and it gives you that break from business because you don't have the luxury of concentrating on anything else but what's in front of you. You can try, but you'll come unstuck pretty quick. So
Uh,
that helps with business because it helps give you that break, that circuit breaker.
yep.
And then you get off the bike, and doing any hobby that you enjoy puts you into a better mood, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But because it gives you that break and you're in a good mood after you've finished, you don't fall back into the stresses or the worries of business. You leave that behind until Monday.
Good. Good. Mate, any questions you have for me?
Yeah, so I'd be curious to know like what your main failure was, or what really stands out for you that changed your business. Did it change it 180 degrees, 90 degrees? Like what's that one defining moment that you can remember that comes to mind?
I've had a lot of failures in business. Um, the one that comes to mind the most was one that I spoke about um, previously. I was relatively new
Hmm.
to business, and I had a contract that was a pretty simple contract. I just basically had to supply myself and talk to somebody in Sydney that would tell me what to do with transmitters. And there was a really big issue on that site, and we had to do disaster recovery. And in the process of doing the disaster recovery after a massive fire, I realised I was completely out of my depth. And it was really scary, like really, really scary. And it started to overwhelm me. So I decided that I was going to tell the person that was in charge of disaster recovery that I was out of my depth and I couldn't do the job. Um, but I had a cable that was only halfway tied in. So I thought, well, I better just tie this back to the switchboard. And in the process of tying that back to the switchboard, I calmed down just a little bit. And I thought, well, I'll go do another one. So I went and did another one. And then I'll go and do another one. And slowly, the more I started to do, the less I started to feel like I was out of my depth. So I went home that night. I came back the next day, and I just did the same thing. And I learnt two things. The first thing I learnt is um, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So
Mhm.
chunk anything big into smaller pieces and just focus on that smaller piece.
Mhm.
The second thing is get yourself out of your depth, but back yourself to make it work.
Yeah.
And the outcome of all that was I made really good money on the project, and that was the money that set me up in business.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I like the fact that you put yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable with, but always back your ability. Like
Yep.
I feel that I've done that, and the sense of achievement after it
Yeah.
is really rewarding as well.
And this is the other thing that happens. So that you got like a circle of influence.
Mhm.
Okay. And everything in your life exists in that circle of influence. And if you want to grow as a person,
Yeah,
you've got to get outside that circle of influence.
yeah,
And the only way to do that is to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
yeah,
But like you said, once you've done it and you've backed yourself, your circle of influence gets
yeah. That's right.
bigger and bigger. So
Hmm.
people who continually push themselves outside of their comfort zone
Hmm.
end up with much bigger comfort zones.
Yeah,
That generally has a direct correlation to how much money that you make in business as well.
yeah. Well, you're uncomfortable and nervous about the things that you don't know, but as soon as you've done them, it's learning. It's learning every time.
Yeah.
The other question I'd be curious to ask, which is industry related, um, obviously working within the industry, um, to nowadays working with people that are still working, obviously. Um, how do you see the change in the industry and the environment that we're working in? And are the challenges that you faced from external sources, are they the same as what we're seeing today, or are there differences between the two?
Big question, Blake. The first thing that comes to mind, and I only exited my main business 2 years ago, and I'm still involved in a couple. So I'm still involved in the business landscape now. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed probably from when I started to where we are now.
Yeah, so at the start, like obviously when you were trying to grow
Mm.
your business,
Yeah.
and then myself as an example that's working with you to grow my business, um, being in business for 8 years, when you were at the start within the first handful of years, like
Mm.
do the challenges that you and I work together on, are they the same as what you faced, or have things changed within the industry since then?
Yeah. So the answer is yes and no. Um, One of the big changes that I think from when I first started
Hmm.
in 2006 is I feel like we're on a very uneven playing field, employees versus employers. I feel employees have a lot more rights than the people that employ them.
Hmm.
And I think that makes it very difficult for business owners, especially small business owners. Um, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I see. As far as building a business goes, when I first started, there was no Google. It was all Yellow Pages, the Yellow Pages book.
Hmm.
And I was one of the first people to advertise heavily on Google in a regional area. But even that heavy advertising was only about $500 a month. Like you couldn't spend $500 a month on Google.
Yeah,
Whereas now,
that's the
I
cost
think
of a
you could
click.
spend $20,000 a month on Google
Yeah.
and not get that return out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's changed, but what hasn't changed is the best way to build a business is to look for good long-term A-grade clients.
Yeah.
And that's old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
You sit down, you meet people, you build relationships, you build rapport, and over a period of time, you get really, really good A-grade clients.
Yeah. So
You
like
don't get many of them from Google.
no, exactly. That's right. So what we touched on before in terms of not relying on a lead generation
Yeah.
platform or Google to grow your business because it's not sustainable. And yeah, old school works and it's proven to work. So
There may even be an advantage now because so many people are so heavily invested into marketing that those people who just go out and do the old school approach to building a business might even be more successful. Thank you very much, Blake, for coming.
thanks for having
Appreciate
me.
your time. It's been good to have a chat.
It's good to be here. Thank you.